Welcome back to another Montreal Canadiens Locker Room Report with the Hockey Coach local franchise directly for a beautiful country at 10. An amazing, great Wednesday night, March 6, 2024. And tonight, directly from Hawkesbury, co-host Mr. Marko Larabi, and from Toronto, and the game man, the legend, Mr. Enortap, are back in the house.
Happy
Woo!
Wednesday, Hockey Nation. Happy hot. Like, hopefully, everybody's been able to follow the insane amount of news today. I'll be honest. I was barely able to keep up with everything today. So, good opportunity for us, Coach, to kind of catch a breath here in the middle of the tornado, which is the lead up to the trade deadline. So, lots of activity today. Some impacts for Montreal Canadiens, I would say, based on some of the moves that were made. So, very exciting time of the year, Coach. It's like Christmas for us, man.
I cannot say more what you just said about this. Going to go through trend trade today, the big one, the small one, and then I'm going to share with you thought about those trade, the impact of different team, and then that would maybe change and maybe the what could happen during the playoff for 2024, and give you the one we are really waiting right now. I did not said it's confirmed. I don't know even after that. Yeah, maybe another update. Is Noah Anifin go to the Vegas go tonight. So this one is really
Yeah.
interesting one over there. Send 2 weeks ago, guys. I always said Jake Guanzel is going to be with Vegas, and it looked like now it's going to be Anifin. I'm not surprised. You think about the ages of the top four over there with Masnice, McNabb. I'm not surprised about this. The second day I was said to you, the next now is going to be Jake Guanzel. He become the top of the trade bait right now in the initial draft. His name is stuck with the Vancouver Canucks. Can the Vancouver Canucks make a splash and send Elias Langholm to the Boston, and Boston make a trade with the Pittsburgh Penguins for Poitras or Lizelle, or maybe a young defenseman they have? Would be interesting to see that development about this. But again, until Friday, 3 o'clock p.m., many things could happen in NHL. Plus, the Montreal Canadiens so far can use. He is very quiet, and that's the purpose of the show tonight, talking about what Montreal could do. And Phil can use maybe another philosophy about the trade deadline. Maybe, maybe not. I'm going to ask this question to you guys. So another thing on the program tonight to condense about this, going to review a little bit the game last night. Be honest with you, a little bit shocked to see the outcome of the game and then the outcome of the first three games on the road of the four. They're going to complete that trip at Thursday night in Carolina again, the Hurricane. We have to give credit for Martin St. Louis, his players, to respond after a slump of 5 losses before they played against Arizona, and that game was not pretty to win that game, but that's where they are right now with 1-0-2 on the road since the beginning of the trip, and they are right now 2-0-2 in the last four games. So maybe for the people want to think the team tank, but it's maybe not the right thing for you guys. But at the end, I think that's good for the Montreal for the mindset of the players to finish strong this season. So sorry, Darren, I'm just the only one talking. I can disappear. Just kidding. We're going to go back now on the people in the chat, if you don't mind, everybody. And Gary Cornoyer, the driver, the best driver UPS, is in town. He's in the house tonight. Gary, thanks to be with us. The moderator, Luciano, is with us tonight. He's watching on one eye is Enortap, and the other eye is not watching Marko. No. He's watching the Toronto Maple Leaf right now. 1-1 between the Leaf and the Buffalo Sabres. Interesting what happening with the Toronto Maple Leaf in the next 24 hours. A lot of time they was put their name of the GM, ex-GM with a flame, and no far nothing happened about them. Sebastian back in the house tonight. Welcome back, Mr. Sebastian. Thanks to both our Canadian show. Yamo Vartanen for Finland is in the house tonight. Late night for Yamo to watching the three games we have in NHL. My friend Eric Doucette, il est de retour avec nous ce soir. Mon Eric, merci beaucoup. Eric joined many times watching my video today and make some comments. I really appreciate Eric, you do this. And Patrick Leblanc or Patrick LeWhite, depends what you want to call him, is back in the house. And tonight is all about First period, Ottawa went for the 3.3 on that one over there. So the Senator played again the Ducks tonight. Interesting, the Ducks. Roger Delaney back in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Roger is with
The
us tonight.
master.
Hopefully you're doing well, Roger. Watch it. The head is coming very soon, but I'm going to make this something happen. Roger, it's always a pleasure to have him with us every time we have a show. Rogers, thanks again, TB, with us. Here we go. Look like a little bit hype. I'm going to check a little bit better. William McLary
Nice.
is back in the house, ladies and gentlemen. William McLary from
William.
Ontario. Welcome back. Always
Hi,
great.
William. Hi, William.
William always brings some great comments, everything. You follow a lot of NCAA, give us some
Yeah.
update, everything. So glad to have you aboard. We need people like him more and more in the chat. And our friend Gary back in the house tonight. Hopefully doing well, Gary. I
Hey,
believe
Gary.
Gary is in Ontario. Well, I believe.
Yeah,
He'll be in the
I
West
believe
Canadian,
so.
but I think he's in Ontario about that one over there. Sebastian back in the house tonight. Sebastian, hopefully you're doing well. Glad having you aboard. Funny that Ren Owenson again with Tortorella. Yeah, life sometimes is really
Ooh.
interesting about that.
Circuitous. But
Eric,
in that, sorry, Coach. I thought I heard that they immediately put him on waivers, though. Is that
They
true?
did. Yeah. They did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I guess Torts must have gone and spoken to him.
now here's a problem.
It's either him or me.
Here's the problem behind Ryan Owenson.
Lots of problems.
But first of all, right, where it would be his new address to send the check from Columbus, from Nashville, and now from Colorado and Flores now. So it's going to be a mess. The guy does all the CPA right now for the salary of Owenson. Very confusing about that. He had to contact everything, but very interesting to see how it's going to turn around for him, for Mr. Ryan Owenson. Not good for him. Anyhow, Yamo Flynn are dropped many defensemen this year. Zadonov, Danev, and Adefin. You're absolutely about this, Yamo. And you can add also a Valimaki on that group. They lost Michael Stone, retired, I believe, Michael Stone before that. It's a new core. If you think about, I would love to see the roster, the Flame, when they eliminate the Edmonton Oilers, I believe, 2 years ago. And to look now what they look like is a different, new roster. We talk about Goudreau, Kachuk, Langholm. First line is all out.
You mean the Oilers eliminated them, right? Like they didn't eliminate the Oilers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Elio, Ben Biancucci, back in the house from Montreal. Elio was with us at the beginning of the channel, Mr. Elio. Welcome back. Long time, my friend. Glad to have you aboard. Nicholas, he's back in the house. We lost Nicholas for a couple of weeks, maybe 1 week, 2 weeks. But Nicholas, hopefully doing well. From Sweden to Finland, maybe Germany. Also, I don't know about that, but welcome back. Mr. Nicholas, everything good. Born to be Ab is on the house tonight. The Flame pick next year is looking better and better. Born, you absolutely right. The pitcher reliever for the Montreal Expos back in the house. Tony Reardon is with us tonight. Tony, welcome back. Well, I can't wait. We need to do a Montreal Expo show at some point. I think it would be great to do that at the end of the season. We're going to bring Tennis Martinez. Anyhow, another story for the time for that one over there. Tried to pick up, got 3-game suspension.
Yep.
Hospice. Yeah. That's a good call. That's fair.
Yeah. He didn't have no call penalty on that yet, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they can evaluate it afterwards.
No, it's not a matter. Usually, it's just like they suspend a guy and the ref did not give any penalty on that call over there, and he got fight. He never dropped his glove, by the way. So that's another thing about this.
It was cold.
What?
I
What?
said it was cold. He didn't want to drop his gloves.
No, he did not want to do anything. He was trying to hiding and most everything that, tried to get the linesman in front of him, but he cannot go around him. Willie Snyder, talking about the WWE a little bit earlier, back in the house. Willie Snyder, uh, maybe become the new commissioner. We'll see what happens with him. Eric, Edmonton are in mission. They are here two players who will help them during the series.
Yep.
Owen's going to have a great time over there. Oh, my Suzuki, I'm early. Sorry for having offended them. I just own a mistake because that's punishment, but most of all because they offer cut 14, 9-14 Suzuki about that one. Patrick, Zev Le Cab is still in the house tonight. I still have my baseball cap exposed. Here we go. I was glad to having about that one of that. Jean-Maurice, welcome back on the phone with the LSAAQ. I don't know about this, Jean-Maurice, but it's really will be interesting what happened with him. The Canadiens only need a 6 to 8 game winning straight to get those both. Yeah, but Sebastian is not going to happen. Forget about this. But will be happening. So, guys, but tonight we're going to talk about Kent Hughes, very quiet so far. But before that, I would like to talk about a little bit what happening. I give you a scenario, not all the players. We're going to go a little bit more the impact or age rate. We're going to ask the people in the chat and the people, the co-hosts of the show tonight. And don't forget, guys, to click on the like if you don't mind. That'd be great. And remember, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night, we do the show especially only for the Montreal Canadiens. And then every day, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, we have the pool question. Today is going to be an NHL Draft 2024. Do you select a forward? Do you select a defenseman? Or do you select the best player on the board? So it'll be interesting to see. We have approximately 500, 600, 700 participate at those questions every single day. Every day, every day, every day. We do every single day. We have a Jimbo back in the house. Welcome back. Thanks to be with us on this one. I tried to call Kent Hughes, but all got was a busy signal. Yeah, he's yeah. I know. I tried myself too, and I gave up on that one. I called Enortap. That would be easier, was quicker, faster. Anyhow, Colorado Buffalo. This is the first straight really show for me. It was not coming. Casey Middlestad trade to the Buffalo Sabres. In return, they send Biram. Now, Middlestad, if I'm right, is a 6th overall pick in 2019 in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then Biram, it was a 4th overall pick by the Colorado Avalanche. Both players at the beginning of the career have a different kind of injuries. In Melostad, it took him a solid 2-3 years before he became who he is today. But unfortunately for Biram, year after years, he missed a lot of games with injuries. Great defenseman, left defenseman, a great puck mover. We know him. Then on the flip side, Middlestad, he was a center for the Buffalo Sabres. And then, it's the team right now. It's to watch because they have the same mold like the Montreal Canadiens, but them is a forward. And they have a bunch of forward, and the Montreal have a bunch of defensemen. I'm not saying going to make a trade, but this is one of the moves they're going to do. And maybe in the next will be bid on Krebs for them. But what do you think overall of that trade in our tap?
It was very interesting. I mean, when you look at it from the perspective of the fact that even though Byram left Colorado, later on they picked up Walker, if I'm not mistaken. So that kind of fills that gap. Plus, it brings a legitimate number 2 center now in Colorado, and really, he really fills that gap because I think he's better than any other centerman that they had at this point. And you couldn't really rely, like Colorado this year has been really Jekyll and Hyde. Like when they're on, they're one of the best, and when they're off, you can tell that the opposing team has put a lot of defensive emphasis on that first line. And if McKinnon and Rantanen aren't bailing them out, they're not going to get many victories that way. So this at least sort of spreads things out a little bit. It gives them I think, I mean, I'm not a huge lover of Middlestat, but I think it does give them a little bit more depth than what they had. So altogether, I would say Colorado gets the slight upper hand here. I know Byram is also very good, but there's always been that nagging concern about concussions with him. And like I said, since they picked up Walker, it's a little bit less of a loss for Colorado in my eyes. Marco?
Yeah, you have to look at both the trades, kind of the Colorado Buffalo trade and the Philly Colorado trade. It's kind of like one or connected moves that Colorado did, right? So good bit of business by them, right? Like you have
Yeah.
the first trade with Philly. First you get rid of the Johansson contract. Not an easy thing to do. And, I think Philadelphia does a nice little bit of business themselves, right? Like getting a first rounder back, compared to, say, what Calgary got for Tanev, who both of them don't have term, right? So Philadelphia does a little bit better in terms of a return, but that's the reason for that is because they took on the Johansson contract, right? So interesting way for Philly to get value from one of those assets. And
I
Colorado kind
believe
of shuffled.
was it conditional, Marco?
No,
The first pick
no,
they
it's a
got?
first round pick. Yeah, it's a first round pick, and there
Yeah,
might
but I
be
thought it
another.
was conditional if they were in the if they finish in the top 10, which I mean it's not going to happen with Colorado, but I thought there was a condition on that. Maybe I
Maybe like
didn't quite.
again, I haven't looked at everything. My understanding is that they got a first round pick for taking Johansson essentially, and then trading away Walker. So that's my understanding of it. Maybe there's a condition, but I don't think there was. But
Okay.
basically Colorado kind of shuffling things around. You're basically trading Johansson for Middlestat as your second line center. I'm not sure I would go as far as you would as a calling Middlestat an established second line center. Like I think he's a lot more dynamic than Johansson. Certainly faster and probably more energetic. So
Yeah.
with the right coaching, like hopefully he it's a great opportunity for Middlestat to come into a really good team that has a little bit more structure. So let's see kind of what happens with that. So overall, like I think, everybody in that scenario gets kind of what they're looking for. If you're looking at Philadelphia, Colorado, Buffalo, again, like with Buffalo, like I'm a little concerned about Byram, like a little bit of a regression this year. And then we know that he's had like that pretty severe concussion history as well, right? The guy's maybe like one hit away from really being in trouble. So bit of a risk by Buffalo there. I suspect like maybe they could have gotten more for Middlestat maybe if they waited the summer. I'm not sure what the rush was for them to move Middlestat at the trade deadline, but good for Colorado. I think it's a good for me. Colorado, they're the ones that achieved what they were really wanting to achieve, which is set themselves up for the playoffs. To me, I would say Philadelphia is the secondary winner because they get a really good return for Walker. And then Buffalo, to me, probably would come in third in
Well,
terms of who benefits
I
from
think
these
that
moves.
yeah, I think they were looking at the fact that it gave them a little bit more depth, and maybe they can match up their defensemen at that position as well with
Now
Byram
you have
added.
three, but now you have three left-handed, right? So you've got Power, you've got Dahlin, and you've got Byram. They're all left-handed
Yeah,
defensemen.
Power play on the right D a lot.
He can play
Okay,
on the
okay,
right,
They
but
try to
they're
move
also,
him a lot on the IFD.
yeah.
thinking
So
of him as probably a 1-3-5 on the left there, and then they'll pair him up with um, the right-handed defenseman just to balance things off.
yeah, like to me, I'm still not sure what Buffalo is doing. Like I think similarly to what we've said about Ottawa, I think Buffalo needs strong leadership, like experienced leadership in that team. Like they already have a lot
Experience.
of young players. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure moving Middlestat, like you're bringing in Byron, which is like he has a cup, like he's won a cup and he played a pretty significant role. It's kind of like Newhook, right? Like Newhook was on that team that won that cup. But we're not saying, oh, look at how much experience Newhook brings to the Montreal Canadiens, right? Like, so for Buffalo, it's again like I'm not sure what they're doing, guys. Like, it's not a terrible move. Like, it's a decent return for Middlestat, but I just still don't really understand where they're going with this program, with their program, to be honest.
Yeah,
Coach, what do you think?
yeah. Um,
You weren't
for
listening.
me, is like the only thing for Buffalo. I would say to you, my only concern is like they still have not add some grits on the defenseman. And you need
Yeah,
Luke Shine. I understand. I'm always go back to Luke Shine because he's really the or kudos players, and that now they try to bring Clifton or Johnson,
yeah,
but it's not the kind of player we're looking for. It's a little bit more deeper about the grids. If something happened, you have those kind of defensemen. So for me, I would say I give you another kind of players I would set for Buffalo. It would be interesting. Like a guy like Lozon, example, for the Nashville Predator. I think this is a kind of players I'm talking about. Maybe
oh,
a
Jackeye,
Suzuki for Vancouver Canucks also.
Jackeye, be
You know,
perfect over there.
I'm sorry.
Jackeye would be perfect there, right?
Yeah, but that's kind of player like that I'm talking about, like a fourth, a third pairing. Bring something on the ice. Something happen, he will be there if they hit Dallin or Power. Because honestly, guys, Dallin is get
It's
hit
getting
a
abused.
lot than he playing in NHL at 18 years old. They're all
Yeah,
around him all the time, and if you look about the forward, they have only Greenlaw. You can say maybe Alex Stock, but he's not a guy, the guy that play like it would be. But I think this is a kind of tough defenseman they are. Now on the flip side, they got another great defenseman, but it's another guy could be another asset at some point to trade that maybe at some in the future. But the Buffalo, they look like they fixed the goaltending situation. This is good news for them. Now again, it's a until they don't win anything, it will be in the same path. Colorado, Shaker, a good center, and the future for them is only what 23 years old, maybe.
yeah,
Mr.
20,
Middlestat,
24.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then for them also, it's Colorado guys always thinking a bunch one and two. When they trade New Hook, they already have a plan to get Colton. They trade Biram and get a solid defenseman. I think is an underrated Sean Walker in
Yeah.
NHL. He was
And
always
yeah,
been under the defenseman and the Kings, right? He was under Alex Martinez, the Doughty, and those players over there. And now he went to Flowers. He stepped up more over there. It's a good. That remind me the trade they did for Josh Manson a couple of years ago from the Anaheim Ducks. I think that's a kind of um, safety they got with Walker. And when you have already David Tays and the Ken McCall play 25 minutes per game, and as a playoff of four defensemen most of the time, I think that's a good trade overall for Colorado to go a little bit more deeper in the
yeah,
playoff. And for Buffalo,
good
is
opportunity.
for the future.
Yeah, good opportunity for Middlestat. Again, like not a lot of experience, but they're really banking on him that he'll be able to help them here and play a significant role, right? Because he's going to have to basically play second line minutes. Like you're not going to have Colton being your second line center. Like he's very responsible, right? So yeah, I don't think Colorado's done here either, though, Coach. But we'll see. Good move for them today, for sure.
Yeah, the next move
good stuff.
we talk already is the Philadelphia Flyers, Colorado, Randall Winston, the first one pick on conditional 10, and then Sean Walker. So we're going to go skip on that one. Big trade
Yeah.
between Anaheim Ducks and Edmonton Oilers. I did not see that one. I did not. I thought Adam Renke would be returned in the Eastern Conference and not on the Western. Got trade with Sam Garrick to Edmonton Oilers and
Yeah.
for
They got a
Pace.
first in return. They got a first in return, Edmonton, right? Or Edmonton gave away a first.
Edmonton did, yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it
So
was
they
a
didn't
good
have.
addition for them.
Yeah, like Edmonton, you're not giving away anything off your roster. Some people felt like they, would be looking for a winger, but hey, this for them, you can put Henrique in your either really your second or your third hole. That means that you can leave Nugent Hopkins on the wing. They were using Holloway at center at certain points, so to me, it really solidifies their center, and it just gives them similar to kind of like what we were hoping Montreal was doing at the beginning of the year, right? With Monahan, like you can either play him at wing or you can play him at center. It's always good to add a center because centers can play wing or center. It doesn't really matter. So for me, Edmonton, this is a nice move. It's really a 2-for-1. They're addressing two of their big needs, which was a right-handed defenseman and a forward that can play in their top six. For me, I'm disappointed. Like if Savard was going to be traded, I thought this would be the destination for him. And I've had my eye on Hollowell for a long time. I was hoping maybe there would be a fit there for Montreal to package something for Savard and add something else, maybe to pry Holloway away from Edmonton. But so really good trade, I think, for Edmonton. And Anaheim, they get a good return as well for two guys that have expiring contracts. So I think good move for both sides here. Edmonton, I don't think is done. I think they're looking probably to add one more forward, I would say. But they still have a couple days to do that.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, for sure. I think Edmonton wins out on that deal. I think they did what they needed to do was to add some depth with Enrique. You can't go wrong. He's been around. He's experienced. He's going to add a lot to that team down the road, especially come playoff time. And I think if I'm not mistaken, either 25 or 50% of his contract was retained, so it didn't hurt. 50, yeah, it was retained. So like it wasn't a huge part that they had to give up to get him and Carrick as well, who adds a little bit of grit and character, and in the bottom half there. And I think it'll really help out Edmonton. I think they made themselves considerably better.
You have to add the 25% Tampa Bay on the 50% of the
Yes.
contract also.
Yeah.
So that would be another
Guys.
one. So honestly, he costs only
75
25% of the.
Hey guys, Coach, can you do
Yeah.
the breaking news? Can you do the breaking news sound for a second?
Yeah, Hannifin is over now. He's ready.
No, different one. Breaking news. It looks like Max Pacioretty might be getting traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Are you sure about that?
It's what it's looking. That's the freshest thing here. It's not 100% confirmed yet, but that's what it's looking like.
Will be interesting.
Wow.
It's good. I like that. I like that.
I don't.
Lots of
I don't.
I like that.
That's the last thing they needed was more scoring. They really need to solidify the defensively.
Of course. But the fact they had another power forward scorer on the power play on the second unit, and the fact they had a depth on the third line, a scorer like him, I think that's pretty good. Experience playing in NHL for many years, that will helping them for sure. But again, that would be good if they have another the defenseman with them.
Yeah. Well, they're missing out on all the defensemen that they were looking at. They're running out of options. They already got their right-handed defenseman, but yeah, you suspect that Toronto would still want to get another defenseman here just for depth, because I don't think Lyubushkin is going to. He should be playing in your top four, but he might have to if they're not.
He'll be in the third period. Ideally, that's where he needs to be.
Yeah. All right, Coach. Right. So we've got Anaheim and Edmonton. I think Anaheim does well there. One last thing about that trade, I think it shows you that what Montreal got for Sean Monahan, pretty good return for Kent Hughes, right? Because basically Anaheim got a first. And I think they might have gotten another secondary pick, like a fourth or a third, but they sent Henrique with salary retention and with Carrick and only got a first. And Montreal got a first with no salary retention for Monahan. So the return that Kent Hughes is looking pretty good. It was nice that he struck early on that, because I'm not sure if he would have waited. I'm not sure that he would have gotten the same value.
There we go. We have to move on with Ottawa, Florida Panthers. Tarasenko go to Florida Panthers. Picks involved and returning money on this one. Tarasenko second year back-to-back trade at the trade deadline from St. Louis Blues to Ottawa. for the new Rangers first, and then sign a UFA with Ottawa. There was a purpose to sign Tarasenko from Ottawa to get something in return at trade deadline. They got it, and now he's going to be with the Florida Panthers. That will add more power forward on the bottom six over there. They already have Listoranen, if you think about this, on the third line with that Lundell. Can play on the power play if you need him. If something happens, injuries, you have Tarasenko experience, can score a goal. Just more depth
Yeah.
for the Florida Panthers, and they are getting closer and closer to be a contender for the Stanley Cup final this year again for the 2024. So what do you think about that one, Marko?
Well, I think it gives Florida a lot of options. Like right now they have Bennett and Cousins and Kachuk as a line, which is a huge pain in the ass to play against. Like it's an incredible line, lots of snot and nastiness on that line. But if you're Paul Maurice, let's say you're trailing in the third period, you can switch Cousins with Tarasenko now if you need a goal, and you just have more options, right? Like, so it's, Tarasenko, again, didn't really have an impact for the Rangers last year. So we'll see kind of how that works out for them this year. A lot of criticism coming from the Ottawa fan base in terms of the return that Steos was able to get on this. So I believe Ottawa got a third and a conditional fourth.
Conditional, yeah.
Third for 2024 and a conditional for 2025. So, the one thing you have to take into consideration though is Tarasenko had a full no move. So he was in complete control of where he is getting moved, and he didn't really give them many options, right? So it's similar to kind of what happened with Chicago last year when they traded Patrick Kane to the New York Rangers. The Chicago wasn't getting a ton just because the players pretty much dictating where they're going to go. So Ottawa fans may not be super happy with that return, and it does seem pretty low. Like Tarasenko, definitely kind of a top name out there in the free agent market. So Steos scraping something, at least getting something for an asset that he knows isn't going to come back next year. But I think it's a great move for Florida. It's kind of like going to the Walmart discount bin, like in getting that old VHS of like Ghostbusters from 1984 and like for $2, and it's a great deal from the bargain bin to get Tarasenko at that price.
Yeah, for sure. And I ideally did not think that Florida was going to be making any moves, or if anything, it would be something a little bit more of a minor nature, probably on defense more so than offense. But you know what? It gives them a very dynamic piece to add to that already talented front line, and it gives them more depth than just the first line. I think it's going to open up things for guys like Lundell as well. It's going to give them more ice space, and I think he's ready for that responsibility at this stage. And I don't know. To me, I know it's going to depend on which version of Tarasenko is going to show up in the playoffs. As you said earlier, Marko, last year it didn't work out very well for the Rangers, but you never know. This year it's a different type of team, and they bring a different type of game to the ice. So I would not discount Tarasenko having a good run here at the end.
He had a good year in Ottawa too. Like
He did.
Ottawa had its share of problems, but especially in the last 10, 15 games, like if you watch those games, on some nights Tarasenko is one of their best players. So definitely playing well right now. So let's see how he integrates in Florida. Coach, since you're busy in the chat, did you want to add to that, or did you want us to move on to the next one?
We can move on about this. Tarasenko. I mean, we can talk about hot dogs, and they'll be fine. Anyhow, go ahead.
We do have. I was just going to add. We do have an extension on Nick Seeler from the Flyers, his contract as well. I think it's 10.8 million he got spread over 4 years. So that's a good move. I mean, I know he's 30 years old, and it looked like he was at the tail end of his career, but he's really had a solid year this year. Increased his point production a little bit, but more importantly, he's become quite the block stopper, and it's something that Philadelphia and Tortorella really loves to do, is block shots.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry
And then we
about
have
that.
we
I
have a
just
couple more
add a
trades.
Ramis Sandin too
Right? Yes.
for the Washington Capital about that. And Yamo is talking about it. It's funny, right? Mikala and Tarasenko for the Blues. Then they go to Rangers. It's like, you date your old girlfriend a couple of times, become, with friends with benefit. So this look like Mikala Tarasenko are looking good that way. Now we'll see.
But we still have, and there's Calgary and Vegas that we didn't talk about. So, that's a pretty big move there, like obviously, and then Seattle and New York. So Wenberg, what do you guys think about that for the Rangers? Like, so Wenberg, like I know it's good. Like the Rangers definitely needed a third line center,
Toronto win.
Yeah,
What's that?
overtime. Toronto just
Oh,
won in
Toronto won.
overtime.
Yeah.
Matthews again?
Yeah,
Matthews?
Matthews did. By the way, the Montreal Canadiens, the PWHL, that beat the New York, the Rangers, not the Rangers, but the New York, by the score 4-3. So they're still hanging there on the top of the league for the women hockey in Montreal. That's pretty cool to hear that about this. And then the Laval Rocket and the Syracuse, with a couple of minutes to go remaining, it was 2-2 the last time I watched the game. It's still 2-2 with 61 seconds to go.
Wow.
So what do you guys think of Wenberg to the Rangers, though? Do you think that really fits their three hole? Like, is that really kind of going in as a Stanley Cup contender? Do you think that's the best they could do? They didn't pay a lot for him, right? But how do you guys feel about
No,
this
they
trade for them?
didn't. I think it's reflective of what they're getting, though. I mean, I'm not sure it moves the needle for them, to be honest. I know they, with the loss of Blake Wheeler, it created that hole, and they
Well,
have to
that's
address it.
loss of Hedel that really, like, they're not getting Hedel back.
Exactly.
But
So, I mean, it. Sorry, go ahead.
I would just said they just learned from last season. They add Tarasenko,
Yeah,
they
that's a good
add
point.
Patrick Kane, they add Mikala, they got back Tyler Motte, and they try to match up and then get that kind of, the recipe is the best for them to go and say, you know what, did not work. We're looking good so far. This is the beginning of the season. I know we lost a Wheeler, but we can hang in there with what we got. I think for me, I'll never be a big fan of Wenberg since he played with the Florida Panthers. But he brings some depth, and the bottom six for them is something happened for them. It's not cost them a lot in return, and it's not like a bad. But again, I think that's what they learned last year. They just tried to say, you know what,
Yeah.
we have
That's
a
a good point.
good shape right now. I'm sorry.
It's a very good
Yeah.
point. That's a very, very good
No,
point.
no,
Coach.
it is, and sometimes we see this every year, right? Some teams really go all out at trade deadline time, and it does more. It creates more disruption on the team than actually address some of the gaps that they may have had. So, I mean, we can look at other teams like Boston as well last year. Added a couple very good pieces that I thought this will bring them a cup, I think, but unfortunately, it didn't go that way. And for the majority of the teams, 31 of them, it's not going to happen either this year.
Yeah. Like it's not that I'm not criticizing that they didn't get a superstar. I just I have to look into Wenberg. Like I don't know what his face off proficiency is like. Like I know he's a decent two-way player.
Yeah.
So I just don't know a lot about him, I guess. But and then lastly, Calgary. We don't have all the details for the Hanifin deal, so I guess we'll wait to kind of really understand what's coming back there. But one other little move, guys. There's a lot of players on waivers today, and then maybe, Coach, we can use this to pivot back to Montreal. But one interesting player on waivers today. I don't know what you guys think. Considering Montreal is now looking at playing Harvey Pinard at center, maybe for the rest of the season. The Los Angeles Kings did put Anderson Dolan on waivers today. So I'm, interesting, option there. Like he's a former first round pick, 24 years old. Again, I don't think he has a huge term, pretty young player. Decent production in the AHL, but just hasn't really been able to crack the LA King lineup. But I'm wondering if that might be somebody that Hughes might be tempted to snag on waivers, considering the fact that one of the waiver pickups that he did, just Ryan White, is now on IR, and I'm not sure it's good for Harvey Pinard to be playing center for the rest of the season. So, what do you guys think? Should Montreal maybe put in a claim on a guy like Anderson Dolan?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I know it addresses the immediate. It's a bit of a bandage for the rest of the year. I think so. That From that perspective, I would say it may be worth it, but it doesn't really do anything for the future. I don't think we're going to see much emerge from the promise that he did propose.
No, it's a free guy. He's free, so
yeah.
And if he does emerge, or if let's say he clicks with Saint Louis, like, it's a very low risk. It's a free pickup, right? So it meets it fills the need right now. Used to be a promising player, very low risk move, in my opinion. Coach, what do you think, Anderson Dolan?
I would say to you about that is like I was trying to check this. I apologize. I was looking. I will check again. But I think for me, the only problem, Marko will say to you, is they have 46 contract at this moment. And they have to sign Hudson. They have to sign Engstrom. That's 48. That will get closer and closer to 50. So that would be a little bit concerned. My only concern about that.
Yep. That's not a bad point.
That's valid.
You're getting, some of the contracts are going to come off, like White is going to come off, and probably a couple other ones.
I think if you are Montreal Canadiens, right, and he said, why not to try to test RHP right now as a center until the end of the season and see, and give him time, and then because honestly they like RHP, the Montreal Canadiens like RHP. Whatever people say, small, blah blah blah, they like him because he's versatile, and the team. So he plays fun role. You need something he can patch up your line. If you have a player get out for missing the rest of the game, he can jump in for the 4 line to the top line. He's really versatile. It's a guy that the player you don't have a lot, and they have him. So maybe it's another way. So you know what? Why not to keep him until Colin White? And again, I would say Marko. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't know how long White. It could be only a couple of days, maybe 5 days.
Well, they put him on
days.
IR. They put him on IR. They put him on IR. Yeah.
But AR is like 7 days, right? It's a minimum 7 days.
I thought it was like 11.
I could be wrong at 10 days. I don't expect more. I think it's 7 days. So at the end of the day, I think they feel like they can hang in there. Again, I could be wrong, but I feel like they can, you know what, we can go that direction right there. That would be the only way I would say that. So that's happening about this. We have a couple of people in the chat. We welcome everybody. Don't forget, guys, to click on the likes. A lot of great comments, so we appreciate a lot. I think we did overview of the NHL right now. And we appreciate a lot. So let's see what we got after that. Anything you want to add more, Marko and Enortap?
No, I'm sure there's going to be lots more. I'm keeping an eye out on X right now just to see what else is breaking. But so far, it seems like things have quieted down for the last. As soon as we came on live, the insiders just give us a little break so that we can do the stream, and then hopefully things will pick up after.
Yeah, I do believe that there's going to be more action than we originally anticipated. And there's all sorts of, again, it's all speculation, but there's all sorts of rumors going around, even in Montreal. Savard's name has surfaced yet again. And
running out of dance partners for Savard at this point.
Well, there's a couple in there that apparently are quite interested in his services, and if they have to keep their ears open. And right now, I think Kent Hughes is in a great position. I can see him right now with his feet on the desk next to his iPhone, just taking calls after calls and weighing them as they come in. And if it's worth his while, pull the trigger. If it's not, they'll deal with it in other ways over the summer.
Agree.
Laval just lost a 4-2. They just lost 3-2 in overtime again. So
Not good.
um,
Brutal.
about that one there. By the way, Patrick, you talk about Tarasenko. I see minus 14, minus 18 about that for Tarasenko with the St. Louis Blues. By the way, so Tarasenko guys have only 18 goal, 10 goal, 18 goals, 17 goal in the last 3 seasons. Patrick, about Tarasenko. Uh, so I don't know what you see on Tarasenko. It's so important players. 32 years old. It's not a Tarasenko you saw when he was at 37, 40, 39, 33, 33 until 2018, 2019. Since that, he have only one good season, 34 goals, 82 points. That's it. The rest, he never been that same kind of players since that. And the reason behind that, it's easy, guys. Double surgery shoulder for Tarasenko. He never
Yeah.
been the same player after that.
Like I said, Coach, if you watch the games for Ottawa this year, he has been playing better. Like I've watched him a lot when he got traded to the Rangers, and there's a couple flashes here or there, but just really not the same player. To me, he's definitely playing much better than I've seen him play in the last couple of years. So again, not like he's I think good depth move for Florida. Like I said, it just gives them more options, but it's not the Tarasenko we know from his 30 goals a year era for sure.
I agree with you about that one over there. So we're going to go to headlines. So we have a couple of headlines. We're getting about this. I don't say he did not play well in Ottawa. I just said for me, he never been the same player like he was in the past. He's
Yeah.
not for me a top line anymore. As a guy can become helping you a little bit on power play if you need something there. The guy can play about 16, 17, 18 minutes per game. So a second line to third line, that's what is now Tarasenko and NHL, in my opinion, at 33 years old. That's what's happening there. So the headline of the night, we're going to go that direction. And we're going to have a it's fun headline. Again, that we have a fun thing tonight. How about that? The first one, guys, is about enough collecting for Marko Larabi.
Oh, the
Yeah, Coach.
squirrel.
Yeah, I had fun. I had fun sending you this picture. I was hoping you didn't think I was trying to kind of send you suggestive pictures when I sent you this, but yes, enough collecting. Like I think I've read a couple of reports, some rumors, talking about kind of the approach that Kent Hughes and the overall kind of approach that the Montreal Canadiens are taking at this stage. And like we've talked about on here a lot, guys. Remember, I keep saying, right, there's two phases to a rebuild. There's the asset collection phase. So like our little furry friend here, where you're kind of gathering all the nuts and storing them and collecting. And then finally you move on to the phase two of the rebuild, which is you start looking at all the nuts that you've collected and you start looking them through, trying to put together, basically building your roster. And then, the emphasis is no longer on trading assets to try to collect more and more and more and more picks and more, prospects and things like that. So, like I've talked about before, I think Montreal is on the verge. I know, Coach, you think that there's one more year, but I think the reports that I'm reading here is that, and maybe that's going to influence a little bit kind of how Kent Hughes approaches this deadline. Is I think Montreal, I think they're done. Like of course they're still going to make a high pick this year and everything else, but I think their mindset, Coach and Enortap, is that they're ready to move on to the next phase here and start potentially cashing in some of these assets that they've been collecting painstakingly over the last 2 years and really start converting these into actual pieces on the roster to make the roster better. So to me, that's good news. You're seeing a team like Detroit this year who, you look at Yzerman and how he's kind of undertaken that rebuild in Detroit. Not, some people might say it's losing patience in Detroit, but he decided, like, I feel that at this point, okay, I'm still collecting assets, but I'm ready to kind of have my team take the next. It's enough of losing. We want to see our team really give them a chance to give them the resources and maybe a little bit of support so that we can start winning some games and maybe get closer to the playoffs. And in Detroit's case, they're actually looking like they're going to be successful in making the playoffs. So I'm not saying that Montreal is necessarily going to be in the same position as Detroit next year, but my sense is that, and then again, like this deadline and the draft, I think we're really going to, Ken Hughes's poker face, or the cards that he's holding, the hand that he's holding, we're really going to learn kind of what is the mentality, what is the mind frame of the Habs management team here in terms of where they are in this process. My take is, and personally, I think it's time to start moving and shaking a little bit. Like Coach this week in the chat, we've thrown around some interesting ideas. Like, if you want to free up some salary, like, maybe you need to give away some of those assets to get rid of bad contracts. Like, there's, the beautiful thing about being a squirrel that's collected all these assets and everything else, you have a lot of options, right? Like there's a lot of different things that you can do with these assets. So curious, I know guys, we've debated this a couple times, but again, with the trade deadline here, where do you guys see Kent Hughes's mind frame here? Like, do you think he's really still about liquidating and collecting assets, or do you think at this point his mouth is full and he's looking to kind of cash out a little bit here? Enortap, why don't you get us started?
Yeah, Marko, look, I mean, Hughes on a couple of occasions, especially recently, has sort of tipped his hand, and that's exactly the direction he wants to go. He doesn't want to go the traditional route of waiting and collecting all these assets. And the fear of that is that you turn into something like Arizona, where they've accumulated enough picks. If you look at the amount of picks that they have in the first, second, and third round over the next 3 years, I mean, you're not going to sign all these contracts. They must have in the neighborhood of close to 24, 25 picks in those 3 rounds. So at one point, you have to worry about the development. You have to worry about making sure you're clearing out some of the dead wood, as we've referred to it as before, some of the bad contracts. And you have to accelerate the process. And I think that that's his intention. And I agree. We're going to see some creative stuff being done. It's not easy in today's NHL cap world to sort of facilitate these kind of moves, but I mean, at least we know he's thinking outside the box, and that he doesn't want this to be like a 5 to 10 year project. He wants to move it at least this summer, and we'll see where it takes him. But I would agree with you. I think he's kind of done with the collecting and now wants to change that and use those assets.
So Enortap, we can sign you up for ready for phase 2. Enortap is ready for phase 2.
Absolutely. Count me in.
All right. Let's see if Coach has come over to our side. Coach, are you ready for phase 2? Or you still think Hughes needs to be a little bit more patient and continue phase 1 here and continue to collect assets?
Yeah, absolutely right. For me, I will wait one more year. And the reason behind that, again, I will repeat again the same story, is because they have again too many that would end the team. So they have sick out to stop with Anderson. We already know Gallagher. We're going to go that way. But they still have Armia, Devorak, Sabal, Jake Allen, Jake Evans. All the players have a 1 more year contract or 2 more years inside, and they are not part of the future or on the transition. So until then, that limit the Montreal Canadiens to jumping and to make another big splash, to bring a UFA, to bring a veteran player, so to add more and to targeting now phase 2 where they're going to try to get a playoff, everything like that. They are, for me, they are approximately 12 months for that. Summer 2025, that's exactly the turnaround about that. They have nothing wrong. They understand another asset. I don't think so. They're going to accept now they need first round pick. I just mentioned they have 12 picks on the first 3 rounds right now for the next two NHL draft. So I don't think so. They go that direction, but I don't think so. They will make a big splash to add more asset, Marko, to add thinking about the playoff next season yet. They would try to go with what they have already, and they are honestly 12 months. So for me, yes, on one part of your question, but another part of my question, I don't think so. It would be a lot of big move for the Montreal Canadiens. The only thing I would say maybe is it's fun kind of asset you can get, right? Not only the picks, but you can get asset on
Yes.
the wing, the young prospect, everything out the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, for sure. Like
And
what I'm suggesting is not necessarily, it doesn't just have to be a UFA, right? Like
free agents.
bottom line,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like so. And coach, so one thing I'll push back on. So when you say dead wood, yes, I agree. You can categorize Gallagher and Anderson. Let's call them bad contracts. Very difficult contracts to move, right? And so you can call that dead wood. It's very problematic for the team in terms of roster construction because they take up a lot of your cap and they're not productive players. For me, I don't include Armia, Evans, and Savard there because they don't have a long term. So I don't see them, if they really want to, I don't think it will be an issue for them to trade any of those players even this summer because they'll only have 1 year left on their deal. So I don't categorize them the same way as Anderson and Gallagher as like problematic contracts. To me, Gallagher and Anderson are the only problematic contracts that Montreal has, right? So again, like what kind of like for me this whole concept here, yes, one option is you could package like we've talked about this week some assets to try to move out Gallagher's contract, freeing up that 6.5 so that you can either spend it or spend it later or whatever you want to do. Um, or you can use those assets to go and get, like a 23-year-old former first round pick that's ready to jump into your lineup now. Either way, though, it's no longer about just being in a position to liquidate assets and collect assets. We're getting at the stage where there's too many assets. You need to start converting some of these and really trying to look at kind of how you're going to construct your team. And for me, I would definitely start doing it, if not at this trade deadline, certainly this summer at the draft. But I guess time will tell.
Yeah, they can't
Coach?
they can't sit on their hands. That's absolutely
No.
the case. And coach, I would agree, like stay away from the free agency this summer because I don't think that there's a great crop there to select from, and it doesn't really help Montreal. I would postpone that 1 year, but there's nothing wrong in looking a little bit more in depth and looking at prospects, like we were saying before, and you do have the pieces to make it happen. So it's definitely going to be a conversation that they've had, I'm sure, and will probably execute. And what they do also this Friday will help determine how far they go this summer in their draft picks.
I have a good conversation with Patrick right now. I'm trying to hammer him uh, right now on the chat back and forth with him about that. He told me the first one pick is not worth it. He said it's not
Oh, it's
worth
worth
it
it.
in NHL. I'm give you Tage Thompson, Alex the Brain Cat. I give you right now Jordan Kyrou, Adam
Yeah,
Kemp, Joel,
I'm kind of with Patrick.
Jake
I'm kind of with
Ottinger,
Patrick.
Andre
I'm kind
Kimmiller.
of, I'm kind of with Patrick on that though, coach. Like, yes, for sure, it does happen where you get quality players, but if you just look at the statistics, you're talking maybe 15 to 20% of the players that you draft from the 15 to 30 range, only about 15 to 20% of those players are going to play over 150 games in the NHL.
Not disagree
Those are
with you.
those are this you can't that
It's
those are
all over
statistics. Those are actual,
50%, Marco.
no way. No, the statistics it's
I
about
give you okay. I will
20%.
give you now the 2016 draft pick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of them play
That's
over
one.
almost like 200 games.
I'm talking. If you look over the last 15 years of the draft, and
Yeah,
you look at
I
the
will go
percentages,
every year. I'm going to give you everything. From 15 to 25, you're going to have almost 8 of them.
that's not what the statistics bear out
That's
that
that's
I've seen.
that's who they are. 50% is what they get now for the pick. 25 to 32, you get 30%. But it's like, okay, don't give me a first round pick. Give me this. We don't draft pick anymore because they don't worth it to draft pick at pick number 20, 25. It's like,
That's not what I'm saying.
no, but that's what the answer. It's not important to pick 25 to 32. That's what you give me right now to answer. Only 30%. It's not big deal. But that's a big deal. If you get a Kempe or Jake Antonger, you get Jason Robinson and your team. And I
Or
think
you
that's
get
a
a
very
Machar,
important pick
or
you
you get
get
a
about
Machar.
this. It's just because it's first round pick, or it's not a big deal. We just gave away that pick because it's not going to happen. He's going to play only 200. It's going to be on the bottom 6 anyway. It's not important. They are
I'm not
important.
saying.
That's why you
I'm not
build
saying
your
to give
bottom
it away.
6 right there.
So I'm not saying to give it away. I'm saying that depending where you are, right? Like if you're the San Jose Sharks and you're in the process of really rebuilding from scratch, then yes, you want as many balls in the lottery of which players are going to hit in the lottery
Or
as
nuts.
possible, right? So you know at that point it makes sense, right? Like you just want as many chances to hit on your bets that you're making at for players in that range, right? What I'm saying, and maybe why I slightly agree with Patrick for a rare occasion on this one, is that with where Montreal is right now, you have to do the calculation. Okay, so is a 25th overall pick, if I'm able to bundle that with something else and get an asset that's going to help me sooner, then there might be value in looking at it that way. So I'm not saying that obviously the pick has value, or else you wouldn't be able to trade it for something that has value. But it depends where you are in your process. For me, there, and again, different teams have different needs, right? So I gave the example of San Jose, where they're really, really desperate for just adding as many picks and prospects to their system. And then you have teams like Toronto or Tampa or even Pittsburgh, who have been contending for a long time, and their cupboards are bare, not because they're terrible now, but it's because they've been very competitive in the last while, and they just have been trading away picks. So those picks are more valuable to teams like that than they are, I think, for a team like Montreal right now.
I should say something. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 picks between 19 to 32 and 2017. I'm talking about Josh Norris. I'm talking about Tovelin. I'm talking about Yahoo, Jake Ottinger, Rand Paulin, Yamamoto, Shedil for the New York Rangers, Robert Thomas. Guys, no important pick. That's it. That's the rule right there, Patrick. It's not important to pick first one pick. That's that's the value about that one over there. And better to RHP 7 round pick and 6 round pick with
Coach,
Jake Evans and everything like that.
it's not just Patrick that feels that way, though. Like, ask Julien Brisebois what he thinks about late first round picks.
But that's where you build your bottom 6. That's where you get this. You cannot get a first elite player, guys, at number 28.
Exactly.
That's normal.
You don't think Montreal has
but
enough?
how are you going to get your bottom
Well,
6,
that's-
Marko?
You don't think Montreal has enough bottom 6?
Just give me an
could use
answer.
it.
Do you
Of course
select?
they
Are you think you're going to get your bottom 6 with the late first round pick or a late 6th round pick?
If you're Montreal, that's not the right question to ask right now, because you already have enough prospects that are bottom 6 type prospects. If you're Montreal, ben oui, come on, your Becks, your Massar,
They're more middle.
Like all the prospects. Like again, Habs fans are the Habs prospect pool. You might be in love with it, right? But it's routinely ranked about 10th in the NHL. Like just
which is
the
not
athletic,
bad.
just it's good, you know, like it's not
Yeah,
bad. But it's like,
yeah,
let's not fall in love with our own pipeline here, guys. Like, it's lacking elite talent. It's got good talent, but most of it, other than the elite D talent that we have, like Hudson, you know, Mayu and Ryan Bacher and those kinds of guys coming up. If you're looking at forward guys, most of the other than Roy, who is, you know, now playing in the NHL, so you can't really even call him a prospect because he's actually playing in the NHL. We don't have any top 6 forward prospects. So for me, coach, you know, I would rather package that 25th overall pick with one of those other assets that we've been talking about to go have a much better chance at getting an elite player rather than throwing another dart at the board and hoping that it hits. You know, we have that's what my whole headline is about, is trading in some of those chips for something a little bit more quality.
yeah. I think there's a bit of a oversimplification with it too. Definitely, if I would agree, Marco, that if you're looking for elite players, you're not going to necessarily. I
It
mean,
could
anything
happen,
can
but
happen.
yeah,
You know, the blind squirrel could find the nut from time to time, and you will address that. But for the most part, if you're going to get an elite player, it's going to happen in the top 5 picks that you get. However, I do agree with Coach that the late first rounders are what completes your third and fourth line and makes them a solidified group that can bring you forward. It isn't just about the elite. You do need those, but you also need the complementary role players that are going to come in at that position and fit in that role that they're going to be assigned. And one of the problems why we don't have any elite forwards per se at this stage, in terms of prospects, is because I think in the last 2 or 3 years, our emphasis has really been on defense, and they've done a great job of getting, I would say, elite or close to elite type of defensemen. You know, we're still. I mean, the story still has to unfold. We don't know what certain defensemen that are classified as prospects will materialize as NHLers, but it looks promising, and I would put their top 6 defensemen up against pretty much anybody in the NHL in 2 or 3 years from now.
Move on
right.
to the next.
And to segue what we just did, we're going to talk about a 5th rounder that has made it to the NHL here. And I tried to put it in French here. Isn't it incroyable what
Yeah,
this
very,
young man has accomplished? And I don't want to put it from the perspective of statistics, because I know we're going to get a lot of people typing in here that, well, what has he done? He only has 7 points in 17 games, which you know, I don't think that tells the whole story. I think when we're looking at somebody like Roy, we already kind of had seen and gotten a glimpse of what his offensive side could be. We did see that there's, you know, some improvement also in his skating. I think he's a very opportunistic player. He's a player that forechecks. He cuts passes with his stick very well. He's very intuitive. I think his hockey IQ is really up there. He does a great job of coming back in his own zone to back check. He seems to always be protecting the middle properly, which is rare, especially with a rookie, to see. That's usually takes time to do. And you know what he's doing is, I think he's given Montreal, you know, pause to think here. And right now they're at a stage where, do we send him down? And this sort of, it was ironic because Coach today put out his video, and it was about Roy and whether he should go down to Laval or whether he should remain with Montreal the rest of the year. And that was unbeknownst to me that he was doing that. So it's good that we're going to be rebounding and piggybanking on that as well. You know, to me, what he offers more than anything is the fact that he's got the proper attitude and the proper mindset. He's already been he said on record that to him, whatever the organization decides to do, he's okay with for the rest of the year. If he goes down to Laval, he said, I'm just going to continue to improve on my skills and I'm going to help out Laval in whatever way I can. If I stay here in Montreal, it's a dream come true. And, I'm going to continue my development here with, I think, coaches that can perhaps be more beneficial to his overall development rather than necessarily going down to Laval. Having said that, a lot of it will depend on what happens here at the trade deadline time or if any injuries occur. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, Coach, you probably know, I think this Friday they have to have their decision made in terms of whether he goes down to, like doesn't the roster for Laval has to be confirmed by this Friday as well?
Yeah, like you don't have to send them down, but you have to put them on a list of players that could potentially that are
Oh,
eligible to
okay.
go to later, right? So yeah, as long as they put
Gotcha.
them on, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, and with Roy, you also, like I said, you see a hard worker who wants to learn and improve his game. I don't think he's out of place at all. He's fitting quite well in that middle grouping, second, third line from time to time. He's leaving a very good impression with many people. He seems to play with urgency all the time. He's got. I think for the future, he does have potential to be a difference maker. Not necessarily as an elite player, of course, but as one of those role players that we were talking about just a little while ago. And he makes them sort of responsible. Whoever's with him has to be in that situation. But no matter where Raw is playing next week, one thing that you can rest assured is that uh, he's not only achieved his goal here in terms of showing what he has and what he brings to the table, but he also sent a message to the Canadiens management that he's a legitimate piece to their future as they move forward. Um, and that's the part that I think is incroyable because it just speaks to character of the individual. And when we talk about draft picks, it's sometimes these kind of players that have had a lot of obstacles in their way and that have had to overcome these obstacles that turn out to be the ones that have character and bring a lot to the table. So I'm pleased with his progress, and wherever he ends up, he's going to be a Hab for a long, long time, I believe. Marco, what do you think?
Well, very good. I think I had Roy as my headline last week, right? So I think I covered a lot of
Yeah,
it then. So yeah, I guess what I could add, having seen him play a couple more games, is um, you know, n- not everybody's going to necessarily pick up on what makes him good because as Martin Saint Louis says, he's a hockey player, right? Now that doesn't mean that he's always going to dazzle you with his speed. Like he can do some pretty slick moves though, right? Like sometimes he'll do some really kind of like he'll do a spinorama or he'll do some fancy stuff. But because of he's not like the fastest guy. He might not pop out at the kind of like passive hockey fan, right? Like or somebody who's not following the team. Like I just saw Antti, for example, who is really knowledgeable about hockey, but probably doesn't watch every Habs game as closely as we do because he watches a lot of other teams. So if you're just watching casually, he may not jump out at you, right? But for me, what's really interesting about him is that all the little things you mentioned, Enortap that he does really well, right? Like winning his puck battles, being on the wrong right side of the puck,
yeah,
and just all the little things that, again, when he was in junior, most people thought there was no chance in hell that he was going to develop into the type of player that he is now. I think it was For You or somebody else that was wondering, like, could he be kind of like a version, won't so as good as, but like similar to, a Stone kind of player, like for Vegas and used to play for Ottawa, like a Mark Stone kind of guy, two-way guy, good at takeaways. Interesting comparison, like not as big and not as rangy as somebody like Mark Stone, but you know, definitely
no,
has the potential to. to have that two-way game, can be
Yeah.
heavy on the puck, and certainly as we saw in last game, certainly has like an elite level shot as well. And he has like underrated vision. Um, so all that being
Some of
said,
them. Sorry,
go ahead.
Marco. Some of the comparisons I've heard, and I really don't like to get into those because it's not
Yeah,
fair to the
yeah,
player. But some of the ones
yeah,
I've heard have been to an O'Reilly with a little bit less offensive capacity, or a Burrows, or even a Perron. But again, not with the same scoring adage to
right.
his game, right? So
So
I don't know how you feel about those.
yeah, like again, I'm not hugely into comparisons either, so we won't dive into
Yeah,
that too much. But like, so there's a couple of things that the only concerns I have for Roy, because again, we talked about all the positive things, right? So here are some things that we want, some flags that we want to look out for. So what I've noticed is when he's less effective, similar to kind of what we noticed with Suzuki when he's being less effective, is that he's not moving his feet enough, right? With Suzuki, like to me, what's really kind of catapulted him to another level here in the last 15, 20 games is his skating, to be honest. And coach, you talked about before, like they've really been working with him on analytics of where to go on the ice and everything else. But it also has a lot to do with just how much he's moving his feet. Just keep your feet moving. With Wow, we know speed isn't his like biggest attribute, so he just needs to be constantly in motion, right? So that's going to be very important for him to have success. Is just keep moving and keep skating. Don't stay too static. And the other thing, guys, is the whole situation of him being a French Canadian Quebec born player, right? Like, so right now we're kind of Habs fans are kind of like a honeymoon stage with him. Everybody loves him and everything else. But wait a minute, let's say he has a good start to the year, right? He has a good end of the year. Okay, well, guess what? Next summer, guys, when we're prepping our shows for training camp, then everybody's going to have super high hopes for him. Like, just look at Harvey Pinard last year, right? All of a sudden,
yeah,
everybody's think he's done because he's not scoring at the same rate and because he doesn't have the same role on the team, right? So that's a factor. So it's harder for Quebec-born players to ignore all that noise when you're playing in Montreal. The one thing that I think favors him compared to somebody like Jonathan Drouin is for all the things that we just talked about. The reason that fans grew impatient with Jonathan Drouin wasn't necessarily just because he didn't reach all the offensive milestones that we thought he was going to reach. It's because they didn't feel he worked hard enough, right? They didn't feel that
hurt.
he contributed in other ways when he wasn't producing. So the good news for Roy is that for the average hockey fan, like we call it this, we always call it the Steve Bégin factor. If you work hard like Steve Bégin, the fans will love you, regardless of what your role is on the team, regardless of whether you're necessarily hitting all the milestones. If you work hard, the majority of fans are going to be in your corner. So I think Wah has a very good potential and a very good kind of like approach to his game. So I think those things will be okay, but it's something to look out for.
Yeah, for sure.
Coach?
He's got heart.
Yeah.
You cannot compare Joshua Roy to Jonathan Drouin, in my opinion.
No,
I didn't.
I know
he
you did,
didn't.
but it's not the same
Oh,
way. What?
what I said, coach, is what will make
They're
him
different.
different from Jonathan Drouin is that if for whatever reason he doesn't like, let's say he doesn't meet the fan expectations in terms of producing points like Jonathan Drouin, fans won't turn on him because he has the ability to do other things that Jonathan Drouin wasn't able to do, and fans will know that, and they'll be able to see that he works hard, which is what a lot of fans didn't like about Jonathan Drouin.
Yeah, but I think it's a consensus of if Montreal select Drouin 150 overall pick and not to get trade for Sergachev, the the outcome will be a bit different for the fans at the end of the day. I think the fact he got trade and the expectation was very high, and that will be didn't help about that. And I think secondly, mentally, I think Drouin is his biggest enemies about his career overall. They, many players are different thinking. Man, I will give you another one. Joel Armia. It took him
Yeah.
years become who he is right now. He have to be followed with a sport psychology for the last 3 years, and that's where he is right now. He's on a good mind overall right there, and he'll be wrecked. But at the end of the day, Joshua Roy is it's a package players. When I said that, a package players, it's rare he put you on the bad situation
Situation.
on,
Yeah.
on the on the defensive zone cover on the defensive zone. Or he would make mistake, right? Well, I said at one point you're right about this. Marko one, he does not move his feet, but again, I think this is the first comments from the coach when you come back on the bench, right? Move your feet, move your feet. You have to move your feet, guys. We don't work there right now. You're just watching, you're just looking, right? And we have to get there. We have to move, and that's the one thing he need to improve more. But that's is normal at his age. We're easy right now in NHL. But for me, I see a lot of positive about Joshua Roy. Me, I'm impressed by the fact, like, every time he get hit, that's not move him backwards. It's keep him to consist to go forward. And he likes to go into
Yeah.
traffic. That's the thing I like for him. He score goal,
He
guys,
does.
in front of him. I know it's not going to, like when I'm going to say that to you, I know it's going to be like this, but I think he could become a little bit like a Zach Hyman in the NHL. I understand he scored 40 goals right now, but just back Hyman when he played with the Leaf, it was a complementary of the top line with the Leaf. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about he's going to score 40 goals in the NHL, but I'm talking about is the
No.
kind of player he can help in the line where he's going to play with to become the bit better. It's a great asset. I would say to you, maybe a guy like, I know it maybe not physical like him, but Audrey Palat is under a player. Marco, he was complete the first line with Kucherov and with Point or Stamkos. This is what I see with Joshua Roy. Is a guy can make a lot of play, very smart, retrieve the puck, keep the puck in the zone, play great on defensive zone, understand the game, read the play well, and speed the play well.
Good
He's a
shot.
good F1, F2, F3 on three zone, and that's what I'm talking about. Again, I'm not saying he's going to be like them, but he's a style of players I think he could become in NHL.
And it's almost the opposite dilemma that we're having with Yolanen, right? Here's a guy that perhaps has more offensive talent than Roy does, but he doesn't seem to be able to fit in any of the four lines that he's been put on this year. So uh, it's a stark comparison, but you get to see firsthand just what the ability of having somebody this versatile means to a team.
Great point about that. Like comments in the chat. Thanks for all the like we got tonight, guys. We are almost at 40, 50, guys. That's pretty good. Here we go, guys. And I know, but
Chekai.
to become a good players in NHL, it takes time. And you have to prove it night after night, game after game, year after year. And I go with him tonight because Nixky, I know last time I did like the top 20 Caden Cooley, but tonight I want to talk about Hearn is praise Nixky. And the reason behind that, guys, is getting now the word is getting not only for Montreal fans, not only for the Montreal team, players, teammate, management, is getting out from the opponent team. When the opponent team is getting talking about you as a hockey player for the Montreal Canadiens is because you make it fun at some point. And it's not anymore only one or two. They play Fleur Panthers. What the Paul Maurice said about him. Look about Barkov said about Nick Suzuki. We go to Tampa Bay Lightning. Look what he said, John Cooper, about Nick Suzuki. Nashville, not only the coach, but now it's Randall Riley praise Nick Suzuki. For
I don't know, Coach.
debate for the last couple of months is Kirby Dak is going to be number one and Nick Suzuki number two. all summer last year, everything like that. Nixky is getting there slowly, populate in the right way, and he's not there yet. It's not complete, but he's going to be an excellent first center for the Montreal Canadiens as on the 200 feet game. And you can see now he's getting more praise around the NHL. And that's the reason he get the All-Star game for the last 3 years. But again, it's not only that. For me, is his play around, not the point Marko and Enortap I'm talking about. It's just a plus about what he accomplished, but his defensively, his face-off, is getting closer and closer to be one of the good center in NHL. I'm not saying it's going to be a McDavid, but more like a guy and the same mold. I'm not saying it's going to be Patrice Bergeron, but on the same mold like Patrice Bergeron, a guy can have you 75 points, 30, 25 goals, a 55 face-off, a winner, can play on power play, can play on PK, and maybe 75 points to 85 points, but a complete hockey player. And this is what the dream of any coach to have on your hands. And that's what the reason I'm talking about my headline tonight about Nick Ski. He is right there. He's getting there. And game after game is getting closer to become that kind of player. And I just want sharing about Nick Ski. So one of you wants to take.
And
Can I take?
yeah,
Can I take?
yeah,
first?
go ahead.
Because I feel very passionate about this one. So first of all,
Okay.
Coach, damn you for choosing a picture with the baby blue uniforms. We're not even really supposed to look at those anymore. Anyways, that's a whole other topic. But so here's what's interesting about. I think Enortap. We talked
It's
about
a
this.
good looking jersey, by the way.
No, I don't like it. No,
It's
like
a good colors. The color is good.
no.
See,
Those they bear a close resemblance to the Leaf
I would
jerseys.
not like to have them a black jersey and not that.
No. So I don't. I didn't mind. I didn't mind the attempt to try to get it close to the Expos. But what I don't like is see, like on the middle part, they didn't put any red. They just put blue. Like there was some people on Twitter that did versions of an Expos Habs jersey that were way nicer than the ones that they actually used. My criticism with it is that there wasn't any red on it other than the logo. If you wanted to really make look like the Expos, you can't just have the blue and the white. You need a little bit more red. Anyways, I diverge. So what's interesting about this, Coach, is we talked about this last week. I agree with everything you just said. As a matter of fact, I've been saying it since the beginning of the year that when everybody was screaming that Montreal needs, like, if they're never going to be a good team if they don't have a center that scores 100 points. And I was like, guys, if we have Suzuki that's scoring 75 points, playing a good two-way game, Montreal's going to be fine. So I'm glad everybody's coming around to my way of thinking on that. That's great. Now, on this thing about all the on this thing with all the praise that everything, like, let's just be honest about how this is happening, right? So I mentioned this last week. So both Paul Maurice and John Cooper are very smart, right? You're coming into into Montreal, and don't forget, like, the media, the Habs media, like, all, whether the French or the English, they're going to the players and they're going to the coaches with a mic in their face saying, "Hey, what do you think of Nick Suzuki? What do you think of how he's been playing recently?" So what do you think those players and the coaches are going to say? Yeah, Suzuki he's okay. He's okay. No, of course they're going to, they follow the game. Like, oh yeah, he's been playing really well recently, really closer to Barca. Like, of course they're going to say that, right? But so I'm just saying, guys, take it with a grain of salt that the entire NHL is finally starting to see, that Suzuki is going to be. Listen, I think he is going to be that, but let's just remember how these things are happening, right? Like the Montreal media is going to Barkov, putting a microphone in his face. Tell me what you think of Suzuki. And doing the same thing with their players and other coaches. So of course they're going to say that. So let's not get too excited about what other markets think about the team. It's more about how we're analyzing and how, we're the ones that watch the team really closely and have a good understanding of kind of how he's evolving. So
But
that's what
Marco,
I want
when
to
you have
say.
a player like that level, right? Talk again. opponent player like that, that's really good.
But what's he going to
As
say,
far
Coach?
as like how many times
What's
was
Ryan
we talk
O'Reilly?
about other players in NHL, everything. So I
But
think
what's
that's
right? So if a media member is going to his face, what is Ryan O'Reilly going to say to that question? Like other than what he said, oh, yeah, Nick Suzuki is a great
Next question.
player. Like
Next
what's he going to
question.
say? Yeah, well,
yeah.
he's
But the
okay.
question
Like
is about what you think about Nick Ski, his development since he played with the Montreal Canadiens. So he
yeah, yeah,
expressed the reason why, the reason who he become.
yeah. But it's not like
Yeah.
And
Ryan
he's not talking
O'Reilly.
about the shot he scored on the game. He's not a answer for the goal. He answer about the development of Nick Suzuki.
No, I get it. I get it. I'm just saying it's not like Ryan O'Reilly, came off the plane and said, "Guys, I'm really excited to get here in Montreal. Can we talk about Nick Suzuki? How awesome is this guy?" No, no, like he's being asked questions about him,
Yeah,
and he's giving
it's a
thoughtful
leading
answers.
question.
It
It's a
is. It
leading
is.
question, Marco, and they're trying to make it fit a certain narrative. And I agree. Maybe that should not be the type of question a reporter asks an opposing coach.
Yeah.
But in all fairness, I mean, for me, it's all about his maturity, and I've seen such a growth in his development and maturity that not only is he filling in the shirt of being the captain of the team, but he takes situations that are being criticized at times, whether it's defensive play or he hasn't scored on 5 or he's not shooting enough sometimes, or he hasn't really been part of penalty killing and been effective, or doesn't skate well, and he makes it a personal challenge to himself. And you'll notice if he goes a game or two without getting points, let's say, he'll come back with a vengeance. Like you'll see 2-3 points the next night, and it's not the primary goal that makes him a good all rounded out player. But you see him; he's skating harder. He's much more responsible defensively. He's starting the back check. I think he's making players around him better. As a matter of fact, I would like to see him shoot more, because I think I don't think he does have a very good release. He's got a very good shot, as we saw not just in the overtime yesterday, but in previous games as well. Like he should be shooting more and not just concerned about setting up. So I that's what I like about him, is his overall maturity at his age. That's a rare thing to see in the NHL.
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited. Like everything that we've talked about, we can all see kind of the progress that he's making. And like Coach, like you just answered, no, we're not comparing him to Barkov. Barkov is comparing him to Barkov, or Maurice is comparing him to Barkov. Now, again, I take that with a grain of salt. I think, like I've said for many times now, Suzuki
Don't compare.
will be a top two-way forward or two-way center in the NHL. And for me, that is how you build winning hockey teams. You can make the argument that you're better off building a team with a strong two-way centerman that can play both sides of the puck and everything else. And just imagine what will happen when Montreal has Kirby Dach, right? Like what does that do for Nick Suzuki as well, right? So all positive. Just as a side note on this, Coach, because it's been kind of like, the topic du jour over the last month over Cole Caulfield as well. For those of you who have been critical about Cole Caulfield not scoring enough goals, not hearing you mention too much the beautiful pass that he made to Suzuki on the winning goal in overtime, though, right? Like, so
Yeah,
yes, Caulfield might not be scoring as much, but this is what we've been talking about, his two-way game, right? Like making his teammates
absolutely.
better, all those things. So do we think Caulfield will score at a higher rate in the future? Yes. Like his shooting percentage last year was probably way higher than it should be when he had like 27 goals or whatever in the amount of games he has, versus it's too low this year. So somewhere in the middle is where his shooting percentage is going to
Yeah,
be.
he'll find his
But
niche in there. I think
yeah, yeah,
teams have adjusted to it as well, Marco, and that's what's lowered that percentage where they were giving him that ice space and that area to maneuver the puck and shoot. It's not there anymore. So he's got to become more creative.
Yeah. And while we're on, last thing before we move off Suzuki, coach, I think it's A2 that's bringing this up just in the chat here. Since we were playing Nashville and we got a chance to watch Cody Glass, it's a nice opportunity again to remember that Marc Bergevin is the luckiest GM ever, because as we've heard, he was actually targeting Cody Glass in that Max Pacioretty trade, not Nick Suzuki. And Vegas is the one that chose to actually trade Nick Suzuki instead of Cody Glass. So,
Final
Marc
offer.
Bergevin,
We're giving you Suzuki instead.
yeah. So Marc Bergevin still gets credit for that trade, but kind of haphazardly, because that's not really who he was targeting in that Pacioretty trade. But we're very lucky that it panned out that way. The other one in history that was kind of like that is when I think it was it Régent Hull, whoever, or it might have been Bob Gainey, whoever it is that traded for Kovalev to the Rangers. I think it
That
was
was Gainey.
Gainey. Yeah. So
Yeah.
he gave the Rangers the opportunity to either choose, I can't remember the player's name, like a player you've never heard of, or Tomasz Plekanec. And the Rangers chose the other player. So we got lucky. So a couple times like that, we've gotten pretty lucky.
Great point about this. Enortap, you're right. I think for me, we talk about Reno Raleigh. I think Nitzke have the kind of release wrist shot like Reno Raleigh. I always say Reno Raleigh was maybe one of the best wrist shoulder in NHL about the power, the strength. I think Nitzke, honestly, when the last time you see a slap shot of Nitzke?
Yeah.
Right? He's really about
Rare.
the power of the strength of his wrist shot. He really believe on that one. So that's a good one for Nick Suzuki. And back about Cole Caulfield, and this is the kind of stuff we don't think when we watch the hockey game. It was not only the great pass for Cole Caulfield, but Martin Louis talk always to buy the space you have in front of you. Always to get, if they give you more space, hold the puck a little bit more. Keep the puck more and let the option open to you more in front of you. Those kind of stuff like that, we don't see this. The game is fast, it's quick, and we only see the outcome. But when you see that play for me, Cole Caulfield, but he get out the wall, he come to the middle, buy one, 1001, 1002, 1003, and then he open up the spot on the right side and a quick shot. The time Marko, he hold the puck a little bit longer, drive a little bit more to the middle. What happening? The goaltender is moving now in the middle of the crease. The pass comes to the left side, and then there are no time for the one-timer shot on the right. So this is the element of the game we don't see a lot. We don't talk much because it's, the people don't watch those kind of reaction or anticipation and read the play. So that concludes my
Coach, we have. Do you want an update on the
Breaking news.
Hanifin? You want the Hanifin?
Yeah, it's done.
Well, part of it.
Breaking.
So
breaking.
Yeah, it's breaking. So the return. So one thing I'll say though, apparently there's a third party that's involved, right? So we don't know what that is yet. But the return.
Apparently, it's Philadelphia, Marko, is what I'm hearing.
So I haven't seen that yet, but I know for sure that the return for Calgary for Hanifin is Miramonov, which is a kind of like a second tier defensive prospect, plus a first round pick, and then a third round pick that can become a second round pick if Vegas wins a round in the playoffs. That's the return for Calgary. I'm not sure what the third team is. Enortap, if you have more information, you can add that piece.
Yeah, I'm just hearing through Darren Traeger that it's possibly Philadelphia that's the broker here and establishing that three-way trade. I have Miramonov and a conditional third, as you said, that can become a second. And Calgary acquires Hanifin from for first round pick. Yeah, because Miramonov was a first round pick as well. So yeah,
Was
Okay,
he?
confirm Flowers.
I believe so. I think so. That's what they're trying to say here. Let me see if I can get any more.
Patrick said Suzuki is at his prime right now. Are you agree or disagree?
I
Disagree.
think he's close. I think he's close. Like he's getting there, right? But probably the next year or two, we'll see. But yeah, he's getting close to his prime.
It's not
He's
there
getting
yet.
there.
Not there yet.
He's not there yet.
I expect
I
him to
think
be another 2 years before he becomes this prime. 27 years old, 28 years old. That's what you're going to get from him.
Yeah, and that's the case with a lot of hockey players. It's around that age category that they
Yep.
establish themselves at their prime. So the big benefit this year that we're seeing is, with about 20 games to go, it looks like he will turn out to be a point per game player to start off with, and who knows where the ceiling on that will be moving forward.
I don't think Maramanov was a first round. I think he might have been undrafted.
Oh,
Who?
really? Because that's what they're
Yeah.
saying, Miramonov.
Yeah, like that's who they got, but I don't think he's a former first round pick. They're getting
Okay,
so
maybe.
Calgary's getting a first round pick, a conditional third that can turn into a second, and Miramanov. Regardless of where he was picked, the report on him is that he's like a bubble NHL player. Like he might make a Calgary. Like Calgary's gonna need some bodies on defense, right? So maybe he plays on
Yeah,
Calgary right now, but he
He's
doesn't
on
really
PR
project
right
to
now,
be like,
right?
yeah, he is.
It was 79 overall pick.
Yeah, there you go.
79.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's a 6
So
foot. He's only
yeah,
23 years old, by the way.
yeah. Calgary might be a good trading partner for their depth on defensemen definitely took a hit here over the last week, right? So might be a good trading partner for Montreal, who might be willing to park a young defenseman with those guys. Not sure what Montreal would want in return. I guess they have who's that French Canadian kid that they have over there? Forget his name.
Petsy?
Pedsy, yeah. But I don't think that's somebody Montreal would covet too much. He's like a pretty small guy.
Yeah.
Ah,
Wolf.
Roy
What?
nailed it. Joseph, Roy just mentioned in the chat. Joseph Ballet was the alternate player that Bob Gainey offered instead of Plekanec for the Alex Kovalev trade. Joseph Baliev.
Yeah,
Yes.
that makes sense. I remember that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great to hear that. All right, let's move on
Yeah,
from
interesting.
that. We have 15 more minutes to get there, and a couple of news about the Montreal Canadiens, but we don't need to talk about that game, honestly. We carry on a little bit about that one. If you want to add something about this game?
Enortap?
Great win. I just thought the fact that they never gave up. I know a lot of people are not giving Allen a lot of kudos right now, but I thought he really kept them in for the most part, and they had to clean up a lot of the defensive flounders that they had in front of him. That's the problem. That's what caused a lot of the goals turnovers, and overall, it just showed that as long as they keep playing hard, the pick will take care of itself at some point. I'm almost getting to the point that I'm thinking it's almost worse to have the number 3 or 4 pick overall than it is to have the number 5 or 6, because decisions will be made for you. Because maybe if you have that third or fourth pick, the best player at that point will be a defenseman. And I don't know if that's the direction they necessarily want to go, but will have to go. Whereas if they fall to, whatever, fifth, sixth, seventh, then, you might find a very good forward that's still available, because teams will be hungry for those, especially those right-handed defensemen, which are at a premium right now.
Coach, I love this game from Montreal yesterday. Like Enortap, you nailed it. Like really, really good kind of like morale building win for everyone, but especially for Allen. Like the guy, say what you want, like he's had a really rough year, probably the toughest season in his career. Like just really really tough year for him. I'm sure on a lot of different levels. So really happy for him. And overall, like just a really really good reward for how well Montreal has been playing. Again, couple things to be concerned about is the power play, kind of struggling a little bit. Almost another shorthanded goal against after allowing a shorthanded goal in each of the last two games before that. So a little bit of a concern there on the power play. And again, coach, like even you mentioned it yesterday, like in watching the game, like breakdown for the man-on-man coverage a couple times, leading directly to some of those goals. So, but otherwise, really, really fun game to watch. Really happy for the boys.
I apologize, Marco, because you talk about Miro Manab. Me, I was talking about Paul Todoniev, the forward.
Oh,
So
oh, okay.
about that one there. So Miro Manov is honestly an offensive defenseman, pop mover, very good success, great players and American Hockey League. Difficult time to go through the lineup for them. I understand that, right? Not easy to be beat one. They are the sixth defenseman they have right now. Only 24 years old. No, he's 26 years old now. Um, but
Yeah,
that's
26.
yeah,
Yeah, he had like he had let's see here. Uh,
He was
that is he
just
had
looking up right now.
he had 22 points in 31 games last year for the Silver Knights.
yeah,
And I guess he was injured because he only has 5 games played this year.
yeah. Now
So,
yeah, but he
Yeah,
play with Vegas right now.
well, he's played 4 games in Vegas, and he had 5 games in AHL.
Yeah,
In the five
when
games
he's
in
in the
AHL,
roster right now with Vegas.
he had 6 points in 5 games though in the
Yeah.
AHL this year. So
Anyhow,
we'll see.
that's good.
yeah.
Um, that's good for the game last night. Honestly, that's good for the Montreal Canadiens. No one talked too much about that one there. A couple of news around the Montreal Canadiens. They announced today Zach Wick is going to be the new GM of the Laval Rocket. He's going to be in charge of that team. He's going to continue to carry on he's in charge about the salary cap, the rules, everything like that. Been for many years. He was working with Bergevin before that, and then we'll see what happens with Laval. Okay, the subject we're going to maybe talk about Laval the next couple of days, maybe Friday. Laval have a difficult year this year overall, unfortunately. Montreal Canadiens announced Alex Newhook and Sarkowski was out of the practice today. Day of treatment for them. We know Sarkozy carry on an injury. For New York, I think it was his first day off since he got hurt. So I think it was good for him, purpose for him to do that for the Montreal Canadiens. And this one, it was not this one. Joel Amiot, it's not on part of the show on the Montreal Canadiens. What is your expectation for the next two games? Carolina Hurricane tomorrow night, and they announced the goaltender starter. Is it Montembeault?
I
Montembeault.
believe
Yeah,
so. Yeah, yeah. It wasn't confirmed, but they're
I
leaning
think
that way.
I think it was confirmed Montembeault.
When today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome to hear that. What are your expectation now for Montreal for again Hurricane tomorrow night?
Well, when we made our predictions the other day on Sunday, I mean, I went with the 1-1-1. I think I'll still stick to that. I didn't expect necessarily yesterday would be the overtime game. I thought it would probably be the loss. I think Carolina is going to be tough. I think the key is that they have to get out to Montreal has to get out to a quick early lead and then try to dictate the play. That's what gives Carolina fits because, as we all know, they don't have the offensive prowess that they need. They've been looking for that for a number of years, especially heading into the playoffs. But if you allow them to score the first one or two goals, they're going to shut the system down 100%. Montreal will not get many opportunities to score. So it's going to depend on who scores first in my eyes, and I think Monteball will really have to put in a top-notch effort for Montreal to stay in this one.
Well, Coach, I'm already screwed for this week. I predicted 0-3, so but I'll stick with the general feeling that I had for this week, which is didn't think they were going to have a super strong week. So I'll say tough game probably for Montreal against Carolina. Predict that Turkey Award winner of the year in 2022, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, always plays well against Montreal. So he has lots to prove too. Like has had a pretty tough after a strong start of the season. You know, he had a pretty tough kind of like last 20-25 games. So look for him to kind of turn his season around with a strong effort against his former team, and maybe he'll flash one of these to the crowd. I don't know. We'll see.
The subject
Not
of the night
happening.
was Montreal Canadiens, a quiet trade deadline. We have about 5 minutes to finish the show, so when let's talking about the subject of the night, we go around honestly about that. We talk a lot about at the beginning of the show about the trade deadline, NHL, and then quiet a little bit for Kent Hughes. But finish the show. What your expectation until April? Oh no, April, but March 8th at 3 o'clock p.m. about for Kent Hughes and Montreal Canadiens and Marko.
Yeah. Well, again, like I think Kent Hughes, like unless he's able to broker, something being a third party, like we've talked about, again, like for, in terms of David Savard, like Enortap, like you were mentioning, there might be some other teams, but to me, the teams that made the most sense, the dance partners are starting to dwindle a little bit. So we'll see what happens with Savard. To me, that was probably the guy that was going to get you the biggest return if you were going to do something. So if there is something, guys, like I don't think Jake Allen is going to go anywhere here. I don't think Kent Hughes wants to use that last remaining salary retention slot right now. Because again, like all the players that you're talking about here, other than Pearson, like Pearson is on the on a expiring deal, but I'm not sure that Hughes at this point wants to use that last retention slot, especially if it's for a player that is going to have term over next year, because that really limits him because he already has Petrie as a salary retention for next year as well. So we'll have to see, but I don't suspect there's going to be a lot unless Montreal wants to get involved in a three-way, but we'll have to see.
I still maintain like yesterday I had the feeling that things were going to pick up because it was just too quiet. If we compare it to the last couple of years, there were a number of trades made just not just prior, but a couple of weeks prior to the trade deadline time, and teams were doing most of their trading at that point. And then, you would get this supplementary or secondary kind of trades being made on the actual day of. And I don't think if today's any indication, we're starting to see that teams are sort of panicking. I think if you look at the West right now, just about every team is loaded up, and yet there's a couple teams that haven't really spoken yet. And I still think you're going to see some action from those teams that are not quite done to sort of stay with the pack, if you will. In the East, it looks like right now, yeah.
But like you're saying there might be like what teams for you would make sense for David Savard at this point that already haven't stepped up?
Well, there's a couple. If now we're talking about Montreal and Savard, I still think that there's something to be had there if the price is right again. I understand the value of him staying, but the fact that he's a right-handed defenseman, B, has experience, has been on a cup winner before, and he brings to the game something that is unique in terms of, his block shot. What partners they dance with?
Yeah,
I think Toronto's still not out of the question. I think that's a possibility, and we've heard some rumbling there. Although I've heard Toronto's also sort of circled around Edmonton and trying to get him. I would think he'd be a perfect fit in Winnipeg. Winnipeg needs to address, I think, defense a little bit, and this would be a perfect second pairing defenseman that is going to solidify that lineup and keep him in on pace with everybody else that made big moves today. So those are just two right now off the top of my head that come to mind. I know Vancouver could, but they're a bit tapped out in terms of money. They have to get rid of stuff in order to accommodate that. And the other thing is he also has that extra year of a control, and that's what makes it very attractive.
I think
Oh
you
yeah, like
forget
I'm
Edmonton.
not debating with you, but go ahead, Coach.
I
Sorry.
said, I think you forget Edmonton.
Now they just got,
Edmonton's possibility, yeah.
but they
It's
just
I think they'll go one. I think they have one more move in them, Edmonton, Marco. I do believe it,
for
and I think
forward.
it will be. It'll be at defense, I think.
I don't know because they just got Carrick, right? So unless, like, to me, my understanding is that they want to get two more forwards. So they got Henrique. So to me, unless they're going to move out CC. So we were joking around
That
about
was
it.
the reason behind that, and Marco.
Yeah.
What?
And the thing is, it hurts. I totally understand the benefits that he brings to Montreal. There's no debating that. I think it's a young defensive core that needs that leadership, that experience that he has. As Jack I put it yesterday, like he makes every defenseman that he's paired with that much better in terms of what he has to offer. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and Savard will not have a future with the team going down the road. So right now, he offers you the ability to sell high. And so if you get that offer, you can't hesitate. It was kind of very similar to the Monahan situation, right? As much as we love Monahan and he brought so much to Montreal, the leadership, I thought it was fantastic. I would have even signed him to Montreal if he would have gone down in price. But it was done, and they got a first. So imagine if they can get a first for Savard.
And we finished the show with my first late round pick. You told me all night that it's not worth it. You know, you want to trade
Exactly.
somehow for a first round pick first. What's going on with you, everybody, tonight?
I
Here we
just-
go,
I-
guys. Let's conclude the Outlook report tonight. How about that? Can I finish better that way? We talk about 25 minutes. Everybody was against me about the first one pick. Now we try somehow for the first one pick. But it was a great night. We'll be back tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Montreal play again the Carolina Hurricanes. Fun Friday night, and then Saturday Montreal play again the Toronto with Cleve. Weekly report recap is going to be Sunday night. Until then, my friend, we want to thank all the moderators of the show tonight. We want to thank the co-hosts, Marko and of course, Marko and Enortap. They again deliver great knowledge about hockey. It was a fun night. It's good to talk about Montreal, but a lot of action in the show. I think it was good to review all the trade happening. More to come, of course. If Montreal makes something huge or something new, we're going to bring you a live streaming or really a quick video about the situation. Until then, my friend, we wish you an amazing, great night, and we want to remind you, everybody. Oh, sorry. It was the Marko exit on the red carpet.
You are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you.
Here we go, everybody. Thanks for all the likes. We crossed the 50 likes tonight, everybody. So thanks again on that one. And then the Ducks tied the game 1-1, a goal for the Ducks. And then, my friend, we want to wish everybody be well, be healthy, and we not only dominate your day, but for the way to dominate the first half of what? Enortap.
You're 2024.
You did it again. Marko, thanks so much. And after that, thank you. Wish you an amazing, great night. I can wait to see you maybe Sunday night for the weekly recap.
Good night,
Thank you very much, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Have a good night, Nicolas, Gary Cornoyer, Andy, Patrick Leblanc, always a pleasure. Lavé Lavallee, Luciano, Nicholas, Yamo did it earlier. Joe Manella, A2, Triple W, Willie Snyder, watching the Colorado Avalanche right now. Luciano, thanks so much, my friend. (1-1) the Ducks, Ottawa. 2-2 Colorado. Merci, mon Luc. Oh. Booyah, RDP.